This loan shark company is really outrageous. They only provide services to high-risk groups. The more gangsters, hoodlums, and murderers that the public shuns, the more they attract their attention, and the gang leader in prison is the target of today's debt collection for Tae-san, the lender.
20억입니다. 원금 10억에 이자 10억. 그리고 오늘이 지나면 22억 되겠습니다.
Tae-san proposed that if the gang leader sold all his assets under his name, he might be able to pay off the debt by the day after tomorrow. The gang leader was so angry that he laughed outright. He told Tae-san to get lost in a perfunctory tone. Tae-san took off his glasses and emphasized again that he represented the Angel Capital Group, the reason why they specialize in lending to people with criminal records, yet maintain a 100% debt collection success rate at all times, is that social outcasts like this gang leader lack substantial legal protection. In this way, the company can take coercive measures to collect debts.
지난 100년 동안 이 일하면서 돈을 한 번도 못 받은 적이 없습니다.
As soon as Tae-san went out, he immediately called Suseok, the intelligence agent, telling him to bail out the gang leader with 200 million won. After changing into his outfit, the gang leader started partying wildly with his underlings, but just at this moment, Tae-san called, saying that he was on his way over. The gang leader finally realized that it was Tae-san who had bailed him out. Burning with anger, he immediately gathered all his men, among whom there were no shortage of retired boxing champions and professional fighters, intending to teach Tae-san an unforgettable lesson. However, with one punch each, Tae-san knocked them into a baby-like sleep. Only the last retired boxing champion held out for 2 extra seconds. Seeing the bad situation, the gang leader hurried to prepare to run away. Just then, Tae-san pushed the door open and walked in. The gang leader, no longer as arrogant as before, humbly stuffed money into the bag. When Tae-san saw that the amount of money was sufficient, he asked the gang leader to sign the contract. And that was the end of the matter. It's just that the gang leader will never know. The burly man in front of him isn't human. His existence has already lasted for 100 years, even 1,000 years. It is said that in the ancient times when chaos had not yet cleared, a beam of light tore through the darkness, opening up the heaven, earth, oceans, and creating the spark of life. The light sent 12 angels. Each angel possesses the exclusive power corresponding to one of the 12 Chinese zodiac signs. At the same time, a human was also chosen to lead them. These 13 people worked together to bring peace and prosperity to the world, but the continuous expansion of the realm of light broke the balance with darkness. The evil spirits nurtured by darkness began to devour the world. In order to fight against them, the 12 angels inherited the divine power of the light and launched an arduous struggle. In the end, they defeated the evil spirits. To prevent the disaster from happening again, the angels sealed both the divine power and the power of the evil spirits in the gate of hell. Nowadays, the 12 angels hide among humans in human forms and live ordinary lives. Time returns to the present. The basement of Angel Capital Group is a lending company. Someone called to apply for a loan, but when Gangji, the dog angel, learned that the other party had no criminal record, she rejected the request. In the TCM hospital on the first floor, Donnie, the pig angel, was also handling business. Suddenly, he heard a patient scream and hurried forward to check what was happening. It turned out that Lingdang, the snake angel, was practicing violent medicine again. One patient was scared away immediately. Another patient wanted to run but couldn't because his leg was broken. However, it didn't take long for the patient whose neck was twisted by Lingdang to suddenly wake up. His long-standing stubborn illness was actually cured. The patient was very grateful and left happily. In the gym on the third floor, Mosu, the horse angel, was practicing swordsmanship. Her movements were neat and her eyes were sharp. Before long, Suseok found the whereabouts of the debtor. After receiving Tae-san's order, Suseok immediately asked Mosu and Gangji to get ready. He also sent a text message to Wonsang, the monkey angel, who was working out, telling him to come to the first floor quickly to get ready to go collect the debt together. Everyone gathered quickly and soon reached the destination. They had a clear division of labor. Suseok stayed in the car, responsible for surveillance and providing information. The other three sneaked into the gang's den together, but not long after, Wonsang told Mosu and Gangji to go back. After saying that, he climbed up the stairs in one fluid motion, intending to settle the fight alone. However, Mosu and Gangji would never listen to him. When Wonsang sneaked into the den, they had already fought their way in. The enemies were startled and swarmed towards the three crazily. The sounds of shouting and killing immediately echoed through the den. Mosu and the other two showed combat abilities far beyond ordinary people, and soon took down all the gang members. The leader hurriedly took the money and fled. Mosu, who had received the information, immediately ran to chase him. At this moment, the fleeing leader happened to run into Donnie. Donnie directly knocked the leader to the ground. The next second, the leader was kicked over by Mosu. After the battle ended, everyone successfully recovered the debt and retreated. At the same time, Tae-san, the tiger angel, received a call from his old friend Dongri, and Dongri was the leader chosen by the god. First, he warmly expressed his concern for Tae-san in a friendly tone, and also mentioned that he had dreamed of a big tiger last night. Then he revealed his worry about Tae-san's health. and told him to take fewer antidepressants.
또 돈 필요해요?
그래, 필요해.
It turned out that all Dongri had said earlier was just foreshadowing. Asking for money was his real intention. Tae-san lied, saying he had been having trouble with work lately, and would give Dongri the money only after collecting the debt. Upon hearing this, Dongri quickly found an excuse to defend himself, saying that even a criminal policeman needed money to maintain dignity. Seeing that Tae-san still remained unmoved, Dongri brought up an old story from hundreds of years ago. Back then, on the battlefield torn by fire and water, he, as a criminal policeman, was surrounded by enemy troops. He was on the verge of death when Tae-san stepped in and saved him just in time. Dongri repeatedly emphasized that he had never forgotten this kindness. Tae-san sighed and transferred 2 billion won to Dongri. Dongri immediately beamed with joy. He picked out a pile of clothes in a luxury store, then he went to the school to find Mil, the dragon angel. Dongri handed over the luxurious clothes, but was rejected by Mil, because she knew these clothes must have been bought by Dongri with Tae-san's money. Seeing Mil show a guilty expression, Dongri's face darkened, and he asked her when she would return to the family, but Mil didn't answer. She stood up and walked quickly towards the building. On the other side, after finishing his work for the day, Tae-san walked into a street food stall. The aunt who ran the stall actually called Tae-san uncle and rushed forward to hug him. The two chatted about daily life. Jin Shun, the stall owner, mentioned Tae-san's identity as the Tiger Angel, telling him to take care of himself and exercise more. She also advised Tae-san to bravely pursue happiness. Tae-san joked that he had already been exercising for 5,000 years. As for happiness, he could put that off for later. Just then, Wanfu, an elderly man who had been eating nearby, couldn't stand listening anymore. He picked up his walking stick and started reprimanding Tae-san, loudly criticizing him for not speaking politely to elders. The next second, Wanfu recognized Tae-san and hugged him excitedly. It turned out that Wanfu had also received Tae-san's kindness back in the day. After leaving the stall, Tae-san returned to the company. He opened the safe in his office and neatly stacked the debt money he had just collected. Looking at the room full of gold bars and cash, Tae-san couldn't help but feel a little proud. But the next second, a wave of sadness welled up in his heart. He took a sip of strong liquor, but still could hardly contain himself. Memories of the past immediately appeared before his eyes. Many years ago, Tae-san and Mil were shopping at a market, when they suddenly heard a commotion. It turned out that a group of bandits was causing trouble. Tae-san hurried forward to stop them and also told Mil not to take action. He easily took care of most of the bandits. However, there was a slip-up. 2 bandits tried to take civilians hostage. Mil immediately stepped in to help. With just a wave of her hand, a strong wind blew the 2 bandits away. The nearby merchants all stared in shock, unable to believe what they had just seen. Seeing this, Tae-san quickly pulled Mil and left the scene. But the matter didn't end there. That night, the merchants came to their door with wine and dishes to express their gratitude. At first, Tae-san firmly refused to accept, but the merchants insisted that he take them. Tae-san didn't want to refuse further, so he accepted their thank you gifts. But the angels didn't expect this to be a trap set by the merchants working together. Before long, the angels fell asleep under the effect of the wine laced with knockout drugs. When Tae-san woke up again, he was shocked to see Mil tied to the center of the yard. There was also a pile of dry firewood around her. And those people who had just been full of gratitude were now standing in a circle, pointing at Mil and talking about her. In their ignorance, they thought Mil was an evil spirit with dark powers, so they lit the dry firewood. Tae-san fought off his dizziness and walked quickly to the center of the yard. He woke Mil up and untied her. Then he pulled out a wooden stake and threw it at the merchants. This wooden stake weighed at least 100 kilograms. The merchants thought Tae-san was also an evil spirit. They fled in all directions in great fear. And this scene shattered Tae-san's last illusion about humanity.
2번 다시 인간들하고 엮이지 않는다.
Time returns to the present. News is being broadcast on TV. At the construction site in Songwon District, Seoul, workers accidentally excavated a batch of precious cultural relics. The cultural relics have now been sent to the Cultural Relics Appraisal Bureau. Inside the Appraisal Bureau, archaeologists and scientific researchers discovered a strange stone among the cultural relics, which showed extremely abnormal readings on the spectrometer. In a hidden cave in the suburban area, a group of men in black stared at the stone in front of them with expressionless faces. The leader of the group smeared blood on the cold stone wall. The next second, ancient runes actually emerged on the stone wall. The leading men in black immediately found their boss Salman, and said they had found the whereabouts of Ogye. Salman immediately rushed to the cave and dripped blood into the container in front of him. The sky also turned red unexpectedly. Salman stepped forward, hovered his bloody hand over the stone, but was pushed away by a powerful force. His subordinates hurriedly reminded him, rashly carrying out the ritual now might put him in life-threatening danger. Salman paid no attention and only said there was no time left. After saying that, he stood up and continued the ritual. The dark fire that had been sealed for 1,000 years flickered wildly. The cave also shook violently as a result, but Salman didn't stop, because he knew the ritual had succeeded. A few minutes later, all abnormal phenomena disappeared completely. A figure emerged from the darkness. He was exactly Ogye, who had been sealed by Tae-san. Salman said somewhat excitedly that he had been searching for Ogye for thousands of years, and finally found him. However, Ogye saw at a glance that Salman was lying. He grabbed Salman by the neck and demanded to know what the other party really wanted to do. Salman had to admit that Tae-san and those angels were still alive, and he needed Ogye's help to eliminate them. Upon hearing this, Ogye threw Salman away.
오랜만에 반가운 소식이네.
The next day, Mosu and Gangji took Donnie for morning exercise, but Donnie was already exhausted before he even finished warming up. He came up with 1,000 excuses to avoid running, and even invited Mosu and Gangji to have breakfast together. Gangji and Mosu had to go for their morning run first, telling Donnie to wait for them at the convenience store. While running, Mosu noticed the necklace around Gangji's neck, and told her not to wear it anymore. After all, there were no more evil spirits in the world. Gangji neither agreed nor disagreed. By this time, Donnie had already started eating. Unexpectedly, he started reasoning with a dog beside him. It turned out Donnie had telepathy, so he knew the dog was calling him a pig. Donnie rushed forward to argue with the dog. The dog's owner hurried to protect the puppy, just as the conflict was about to escalate. Fortunately, Mosu and Gangji returned in time to calm the situation. Donnie channeled his frustration into eating and continued to gorge himself. As for Mosu and Gangji, they felt both angry and helpless looking at this unreliable friend. In the end, they could only scold him a little and let it go. On the other side, Ogye wandered alone on the street. Having been sealed for 1,000 years, he felt extremely uncomfortable looking at all the unfamiliar things around him. Just then, Mill walked past not far away. It was as if she sensed Ogye's aura. She turned around suddenly, but then thought it was just her imagination and left. As night fell, Ogye asked Salman in confusion, "Did humans really build this concrete jungle?" Before Salman could answer, Ogye interrogated him, "Have you forgotten your mission to plunge the world into hell?" Salman explained weakly, "Ever since Haiti died, the gate of hell has been closed, so I lost all my power. I can only barely survive in this world, constantly looking for chances to regain my power, and the reason I freed you, Ogye, is to fulfill the mission of plunging the world into hell." Salman emphasized that the angels had now lost their divine power and couldn't defeat Ogye, and that he could make Ogye even stronger. Haiti left 3 soul stones after his death. As long as we collect all the soul stones and inject their power into Mill's dragon soul, you will be able to control Haiti's power, and I will gain immortality. After thinking carefully, Ogye decided to trust Salman for the time being, but he warned, "If you dare to play any tricks, I will kill you." The next day, Tae-san was collecting a debt at a used car dealership. A man nearby was lying on the ground, crying bitterly, obviously having just been beaten. After counting the money, Tae-san was ready to leave, but as soon as he got in the car, sad feelings overwhelmed him again. Tae-san hurried to find his medicine bottle, only to discover it was empty. He immediately made an appointment with a psychiatrist, and arrived at the hospital soon after. He didn't want to listen to the doctor's rambling, so he slammed a stack of money on the table. The doctor said he would prescribe more medicine for Tae-san, and thoughtfully turned off the lights to let Tae-san rest well for a while. On the other side, Salman took his men to the secret base and began to advance his plan. One of his men suggested that Ogye was too dangerous, and advised Salman to get rid of him. But Salman said Ogye was the only one who could sense the location of the soul stones, saying it wouldn't be too late to kill him after they found the stones. After saying that, Salman initiated a bloody dark ritual. He extracted the life force and souls of his men, converting them into more powerful evil energy. Through this ritual, Salman's men would gain combat power far beyond that of ordinary people. The moment they obtained the evil energy, Dongri and the angels suddenly felt something unusual. The pendants hanging around their necks emitted a dazzling light at the same time. All of them had expressions of disbelief. Susiak immediately contacted Dongri. Dongri was on his way to the scene of the incident, but he couldn't get in touch with Tae-san or Mill. The situation was urgent, so everyone had to set off first. At this time, Mill, who had just finished a meeting, was preparing to drive home, and only then noticed that her pendant had been glowing non-stop. Just then, she suddenly sensed someone behind her. A group of men in black rushed over. Their combat power was formidable, and they quickly took Mill down. Even when she used her superpowers, it had little effect. Just as Mill was about to be taken away, Won-sang and the others arrived just in time and engaged the men in black in a fight. However, how could the envoys, who had lost their divine power, be a match for the men in black? Among them, Won-sang, Mosu, and Gangji, who had the strongest combat power, were defeated one after another, let alone Donnie and Susiak, who was in charge of strategy. On the other side, after resting, Tae-san returned to the company, only to find the usually bustling basement empty. he immediately felt that something was wrong. Just then, Tae-san heard a strange sound coming from a drawer. When he opened it, he was shocked to see the necklace shining brightly. At the same time, the battle in the parking lot had ended. The envoys were completely controlled by the men in black. At this critical moment, Dongri arrived just in time. He briefly surveyed the situation at the scene, then held his hand in the air, and a cane appeared out of thin air. Powerful magical energy trapped the men in black in place. Dongri hurried to tell the angels to get up. Then everyone supported each other and planned to leave here. At this moment, Ogye, who was far away, was watching everything through his intuition. Salman also saw the scene through a special device. He quickly chanted an incantation to unbind one of the men in black. The man in black grabbed Dongri by the neck and tried to strangle him. Just then, the other men in black also broke free from their restraints. Won-sang kicked to rescue Dongri from danger. After regaining his balance, Dongri cast a spell again. Salman immediately used dark magic to teleport his men back. Dongri reacted quickly and trapped one of the men in black. He used magic to read part of the man's memory and unexpectedly saw Salman. He froze for a moment, and the magic failed immediately after. The crisis was temporarily resolved. Dongri organized everyone to return to the company first. When Tae-san saw his injured friends, mixed feelings welled up in his heart. Dongri immediately went to the office and told Tae-san about what had happened. Ling Deng began to heal everyone's wounds. Mil, whose injuries were relatively minor, quickly recovered as before. She stood up to leave but was stopped by Gang Ji. Mil saw what Gang Ji was thinking and said she would be back soon. At this moment, Dongri and Tae-san walked into the therapy room. Gang Ji asked Dongri if he had any clues about the evil spirits. After getting a negative answer, Gang Ji believed they should take the initiative to search for the traces of the evil spirits. However, Tae-san strictly forbade everyone from acting arbitrarily. In fact, what everyone was most confused about was why the evil spirits had returned to the human world. But Dongri still didn't tell everyone about Salman's appearance. Just then, Gang Ji spoke again. The purpose of the 12 envoys' existence is to protect humans. So we must find the evil spirits quickly, otherwise, humans will be in danger. But Tae-san thought that instead of fighting for humans, they should first protect their companions. For thousands of years, they have been protecting humans, but all they have received is betrayal. Now even the god has abandoned the angels. The angels are left with only endless lifespans, barely surviving in the world. Seeing Tae-san and Gang Ji getting emotional, Dongri immediately spoke up to stop them. After Tae-san left, Dongri treated Won-sang to a meal and analyzed the current situation. But before they said much, Dongri suddenly changed the subject and asked Won-sang if he hadn't seen Tae-san's true intention. Then he subtly implied that Tae-san had always valued Won-sang and wanted to train him to be the next leader. Won-sang was both surprised and delighted. In the end, he was persuaded by Dongri and strengthened his determination to crusade against the evil spirits. At the same time, Tae-san opened the safe and unlocked the secret door inside it. This place held the memories he was most unwilling to touch. The next second, scenes from the past appeared in his mind. Back then, to protect humans, the 12 envoys did their utmost to fight against the evil spirits. In the end, the 4 envoys corresponding to the ox, rabbit, goat, and rooster sacrificed themselves in the battle. This became an eternal pain in Tae-san's heart. Just then, Dongri told Tae-san about Salman's appearance, and that Salman was also the high priest who had once corrupted Haiti into an evil spirit. Tae-san was extremely shocked when he heard this. How could a mortal like Salman live until now? Dongri said he would find out the truth. Tae-san reacted with stress immediately. He didn't care how Dongri investigated, but he warned not to involve the angels. With that, he left without looking back. When Dongri came out of the secret room, he happened to run into Mil. Seeing her suitcase, Dongri finally showed a relieved smile. The next day, Tae-san carried a large bag of cash and found Jin Shun and offered to buy her food stall. Then he took out 2 plane tickets and told Jin Shun and Wanfu to go abroad quickly, saying there might be trouble soon. Little did they know that trouble was watching them not far away. However, it didn't take long before Jin Shun brought Wanfu to Angel Capital Group. Jin Shun said that after thinking it over repeatedly, she still couldn't accept Tae-san's money, and that she also couldn't abandon the food stall left by her mother.
우리 엄마가 여기를 어떻게 지켰는지 누구보다 아저씨가 잘 알잖아요.
Tae-san sighed, and scenes from the past unconsciously emerged in his mind. More than 30 years ago, 2 gangs fought over territory. The losing side actually took their anger out on the common people. They ransacked the local market, claiming they would turn it into a bar. Though Tae-san didn't want to interfere in humans' affairs, he couldn't resist the pleading looks of his 3 companions and set off immediately. At this time, the gang leader was beating up the vendors who resisted. Jinchuan's mother was among them. At the critical moment, Tae-san and the others made a grand entrance and announced that Angel Capital Group had already bought the market, telling the gang members to get out. The gang leader naturally refused to accept this. The 2 sides immediately started fighting. Tae-san didn't indulge his bad behavior either. He leaned down and landed a punch on his liver, quickly quelling the chaos in the market. Tae-san's heroic image was also etched into Jinchuan's memory, and it was precisely because of this that Jinchun never doubted Tae-san. Even if the evil spirits really reappeared, she still believed that Tae-san would protect the world just as he had protected her back then. Tae-san nodded and reluctantly agreed not to let Jinchun and Wanfu go abroad. At the same time, Wansang held the special tracking device made by Sosiak, and took on the task of searching for the traces of the evil spirits alone. Dongri launched his own secret investigation. It turned out that the strange stone, reported in the news earlier, had been stolen. He rushed to the Cultural Relics Appraisal Bureau. After learning the details, he found that not a single trace was left at the scene. This didn't seem like a simple theft, but rather a premeditated seizure. Just as Dongri was sorting out the clues, Wansang called to complain that the tracking device had no response. Dongri told Wansang to try near the Barren Mountain. He remembered that was the place where the evil spirits first appeared before. Then he continued to persuade Wansang, saying that this was the hardship one must endure to be a leader.
김영사, 그래. 들어갈게.
Wansang ate a refreshing candy, and continued his investigation with the device in hand. As night fell, Ogye, who had been staring into the distance, suddenly lowered his head, and in his hand was clearly the stolen strange stone. It turned out the strange stone was the soul stone. The next second, his eyes unexpectedly turned blood red, and soon he sensed the location of the second soul stone. Salmon immediately gave the order, and his men quickly rushed to the scene to retrieve the second soul stone. At the same time, the envoys planned to have dinner together. Wansang suddenly appeared. Mosu asked where he had been all day and why he hadn't answered the phone. Wansang hurriedly fended off the question. During the meal, Susiak distributed salaries to everyone on Tae-san's behalf. Their monthly salary was actually 2 gold bars, however, following the old rule among the angels, each of them handed over 1 gold bar, which Gangji would donate to welfare organizations uniformly. Just then, Dongri pushed the door open and walked in. He declined everyone's dinner invitation and walked into Tae-san's office. Looking at Tae-san, who was dead drunk, Dongri couldn't help but recall the past. One day in ancient times, a child named Haiti suddenly appeared behind Tae-san. Seeing the child keep following him, Tae-san told Haiti to leave. Dongri hurried to stop him and explained that the child's identity was unusual. He was a special being created by the god, who took one trait from each of the 12 angels and fused them together. Perhaps the god had taken a little more from Tae-san, which was why Haiti liked him. Dongri also predicted that Haiti would become a guardian of the human world. As time flew by, Haiti had grown up. Tae-san solemnly said that their mission was to protect humans. Haiti kept these words firmly in mind, and from then on, he fought side by side with Tae-san. The next second, Tae-san suddenly woke up, interrupting Dongri's memory. Dongri asked with concern if Tae-san had dreamed of those children again. Tae-san forced himself to stay strong and said he had gotten used to it. Dongri fell silent for a moment, then showed Tae-san a video. Yesterday, Ogye suddenly broke into the Cultural Relics Appraisal Office, killed all the guards, and then took the tightly sealed soul stone. Dongri looked solemn. He deduced that Ogye's escape from the Gate of Hell must be related to Salmon. He emphasized that under no circumstances should Ogye and Mill meet. The situation became increasingly grim. Tae-san finally relented. Dongri could tell the others about Ogye and Salmon, but once their specific location was confirmed, he could only report it to Tae-san himself. Dongri quickly agreed and also raised a bigger question: why Salmon had chosen to suddenly reveal himself after hiding for so many years, even going so far as to awaken Ogye. Tae-san was also puzzled, filled with remorse. He said he should have killed Ogye back then. The next day, Mill and Mosu had a sparring session in the gym. At first, the two were evenly matched in the fight. As the sparring became more and more intense, Mill subconsciously used her superpowers. Mosu was extremely surprised.
우리들은 능력들이 사라졌는데 왜 난 초능력이 남아있는 거지? 용의 영혼 때문인 건가?
Mill herself had no clue either. Mosa didn't overthink it either and took her into a dessert shop they often visited. But Mill couldn't feel happy. The threat of the evil spirits was closing in step by step. I'm afraid this kind of peace won't last long. Mosa told Mill not to think too much. It wasn't the first time they dealt with evil spirits. They could still use the old method. The angels would first join forces to trap the enemy, then let Dongri cast a magical barrier to destroy them. Nevertheless, Mill was still deeply worried about Dongri. A few days ago, the power he'd unleashed with his cane had long exceeded the limits of his body. What would happen if the evil spirits made a comeback before Dongri recovered? The atmosphere suddenly turned extremely heavy. Mosu asked if Mill had had another clairvoyant vision. Clairvoyance was another one of Mill's abilities, allowing her to see some things that were about to happen. Mill immediately denied it, and Mosa didn't ask again. At this time, the other angels didn't let their guard down either. Ling Dang made a bottle of potion for Donnie, who had 0 combat power. She told Donnie to carry it with him at all times, and drink it right away if he encountered evil spirits. It would make his power surge in a short period of time, but after the effect wore off, Donnie would suffer severe pain. Donnie was unwilling to drink it. At first, but when he learned that the potion's ingredients came from herbs that had gone extinct 400 years ago, he immediately became very fond of it. In the evening, Dongri gathered everyone for a meeting. Before the meeting, Tae-san called Mill to the office alone. Dongri took the opportunity to tell the angels about Salmon's appearance and Ogye's resurrection. Everyone looked solemn. Dongri told everyone that under no circumstances should Mill find out about Ogye's resurrection. In the office, Tae-san asked Mill if any strangers had approached her recently. Mill shook her head in confusion and denied it. But the next second, she suddenly remembered a dream she'd had, a mysterious figure with a blurry face in a valley, companions falling one after another in battle. Mill stared blankly until she heard Tae-san's call and came back to her senses. Tae-san immediately ordered Mill to temporarily withdraw from operations during this period, and not to leave the company. After saying that, Tae-san ignored Mill's objections and turned around to leave the office. On the other side, Won-sang's tracking device suddenly beeped. He followed the location and spotted the evil spirits. Won-sang didn't alert them and quietly followed the evil spirits into a tunnel, but in the blink of an eye, all the evil spirits had disappeared. Won-sang had to return to the company to report the news first. After learning this important information, Tae-san and Dongri decided to take action the next day. At the same time, inside the spatial barrier in the tunnel, Salmon and Ogye were discussing their next plan. They had already found 2 soul stones. As long as they got the last one and then seized the dragon soul from Mill, fusing the 3 together would allow them to fully control all of Hades' dark power. But Ogye still had concerns. He solemnly mentioned that Tae-san had been staying by Mill's side, and that Tae-san would be the biggest obstacle to their plan. But Salmon seemed unusually confident. Tae-san and the other angels' powers had long been sealed outside the gate of hell. What's more, he knew Tae-san's weakness well. The next day, Tae-san and Dongri went to the tunnel Won-sang had discovered. Just as they were about to explore further, the pendant on Dongri's chest suddenly lit up. The next second, Won-sang called. He reported in a hurry that the evil spirits were gathering at Jin Chuan's food stall. Tae-san's heart tightened, and he immediately drove back with Dongri. At the same time, the evil spirits had already arrived at Jin Chuan's stall. Looking into their eyes, Jin Shun immediately realized these were the evil spirits Tae-san had mentioned. Wanfu used all his strength to hold on to one evil spirit and told Jin Shun to leave immediately. Jin Shun made a quick decision and turned around to rush into the subway station, but the evil spirits chased closely behind her. Jin Shun was already old and couldn't shake them off, so she had to hide in the bathroom. By this time, Tae-san and Dongri had arrived at the stall. They learned from Wanfu that Jin Shun had gone into the subway station. Tae-san set off immediately. Even though he now had a mortal body, he still unleashed an unrivaled power, and knocked down the evil spirits in just a few rounds. After finding Jin Shun, Tae-san entrusted her to Dongri, who had just arrived. But the next second, the evil spirits that had just been knocked down stood up again. Dongri was also surrounded by a large group of evil spirits from all sides. At this critical moment, the angels arrived just in time. Mosa decided that she and Donnie would cover the others' retreat. The two immediately engaged in a fierce battle with the evil spirits, but without their divine power, they had almost no chance of winning against the evil spirits. They were severely injured and fell to the ground after just a few rounds. Before long, Dongri and the others were surrounded by evil spirits. Meanwhile, in the Angel Capital Group building, Ling Dang and Mill, who had stayed behind, heard a hurried knock on the door. Ling Dang and Mill finally realized that what had just happened was a scheme by Salmon, whose purpose was to divert the Angel's main combat forces, capture Mill, and seize her dragon soul. Donnie took out the potion Ling Dang had given him from his pocket, and drank it all in one go without hesitation. The next second, his face turned bright red, and steam kept coming out of his 7 orifices. He looked just like a cooked redskin duck. Facing the powerful evil spirits in front of him, Donnie stepped forward to confront them head-on. The battle between them was simple and unadorned. Nothing more than the simplest fist clashes. Shockingly, after several rounds, Donnie was actually unscathed. He seized the opportunity to hug an evil spirit, gave a violent swing, and threw the evil spirit flying directly. Mosa stepped forward quickly and took advantage of the situation to defeat the evil spirit, but the after-effects of the potion Donnie had taken kicked in. Mosu hurriedly supported him and left the subway station. On the other side, the other angels also grappled with the evil spirits. The angels cooperated with great teamwork and soon knocked down all the evil spirits, but only divine power could destroy them. So no matter how many times the angels knocked the evil spirits down, the latter would stand up again and continue fighting tirelessly. The situation reversed instantly, and the angels fell one after another. Jin Chuan's situation was even more grim. She had just been injured by an evil spirit at the food stall. At this critical moment, Tae-san burst into the scene. His movements were as fast as lightning, and each punch carried the power of thunder. He He knocked down several evil spirits in the span of a few breaths, temporarily resolving the crisis, but the angels didn't know that Salmon's real target had always been the Angel Capital Group building. At Salmon's order, the evil spirits charged at Mill collectively. Ling Dang drew her bow and knocked an arrow, trying to block the enemies, but when an archer is closed in on, they will show vulnerabilities. Salmon gathered dark energy in his palm, stepped forward quickly, and knocked Ling Dang unconscious. Mill was entangled by Salmon's men, and after fighting with all her strength, she was also knocked unconscious by Salmon. When Mosu and the others rushed back to the group building, they found the first floor in a mess. Ling Dang was lying on the ground, while Mill had long disappeared. Everyone hurriedly woke Ling Dang up, and learned that Salmon had attacked the group headquarters and taken Mill away. They finally understood that the evil spirit's attack on Jin Shun was a scheme. Thinking of this, Tae-san, who was already furious, became even angrier. He gnashed his teeth and said he would eliminate Salmon and the others. Dongri hurriedly held him back. The pendants showed no response, and they couldn't find Salmon's lair.
승희가 찾은 데 있잖아. 거기 가면 있을 거 아니야?
Dongri also lost his temper, and shouted that the tunnel was sealed by a dark magic barrier. Acting rashly would only alert the enemy, and that would put Mill in even greater danger. The tense atmosphere made everyone feel suffocated. Ling Dang went to take care of the injured Jin Shun first, but after checking, she told everyone that Jin Shun had been injured by an evil spirit, and that human medicine could not cure her, but she would do her best to treat Jin Shun. Mosu was so anxious that she paced around in circles. Just then, Wonsang suddenly suggested opening the gate of hell, saying that their powers might be restored if they did so, and Ling Dang could then use her abilities to heal Jin Shun. Dongri immediately rejected this proposal. Once the gate of hell was opened, the consequences would be unpredictable, and it would most likely plunge the entire human world into a greater disaster. For a moment, everyone was at a loss. Looking at Jin Shuan's painful expression, Dongri finally made a decision. He didn't say a word and drove away from the group building alone, but was coincidentally seen by Wonsang. At the same time, Ojwai walked into the underground cell and approached Mill, but felt a splitting headache. After a brief recovery, he looked at the unconscious Mill, and the headache became even more intense. Soon after, Mill suddenly woke up and looked around in panic. Suddenly, Ojwai stepped out of the darkness, and knocked Mill unconscious again, then took her to the altar. Just then, Ojwai came over holding the third soul stone. It turned out that just a moment ago, Salmon's men had broken into a museum and found the third soul stone. All preparations were complete, and the ritual began immediately. After placing the 3 soul stones in place, Ojwai spread the wings on his back, and used dark energy to fuse the soul stones together. As the energy continued to intensify, the dragon soul in Mill's body began to be forcibly extracted. Soon, the azure blue dragon soul flew out of Mill's body. It fused, intertwined, and resonated with the 3 soul stones, and finally turned into the purest energy orb. Overjoyed, Ojwai reached out to absorb it, but the next second, a long-sealed memory suddenly exploded in his mind. The violent impact made him hold his head and scream, and he fainted to the ground. On the other side, Wonsang finally decided to tell his companions about his secret investigation into Salmon's lair. Mosu immediately pressed him for the exact location, eager to go rescue Mill. Wonsang told her to calm down, saying they should all act together after Dongri got off work, but Dongri said that because the evil spirits had reappeared, he had already resigned. Wonsang immediately sensed something was wrong, and told Tae-san about Dongri acting alone. Tae-san's heart tightened instantly. He concluded that Dongri must have gone to the tunnel to rescue Mill, so he hurried to drive after Dongri with Wonsang. As he had expected, Dongri had already arrived at the tunnel. He clenched his fist in the air, took his staff, walked to the dark barrier, and began to try to open it, but earlier, his repeated use of magic had left him with insufficient mana. Eager to save Mill, Dongri sacrificed his life force by overdraining it, and finally opened the barrier. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and walked in, and found Salmon holding the fused soulstone, looking at the unconscious Ojwai, while the unconscious Mill lay on the altar in the center. Just then, the evil spirit spotted Dongri and surrounded him directly. Salmon slowly pressed the soulstone against his chest. Countless streams of black blood poured into his body like tentacles, and then burst out again the next second. Surprisingly, the scar on Salmon's face was healed by the blood. He looked incredulous, but also a little excited as he felt the powerful energy surging inside his body. Just then, he spotted Dongri holding the staff, so he directly conjured a machete from the blood. Dongri showed no fear and demanded to know how Salmon had managed to survive until now, but Salmon had no intention of answering, and simply told his men to surround Dongri. Dongri stuck his staff into the ground, and 2 evil spirits instantly turned to ashes. Then he conjured 4 doppelgangers and grappled with the other evil spirits. At first, Dongri handled it with ease, but soon Salmon could tell he was forcing himself, so he seized the opportunity to lunge forward, and stabbed the knife into Dongri's heart. Looking at the soul stone flickering inside Salmon's body, Dongri instantly realized that Salmon wanted to take Hades' power for himself. Just then, Ojwai struggled to prop himself up. Scenes from the depths of his memory kept emerging. It turned out that he and Mill were lovers. During the ancient Great War, he was seriously injured and once thought he was beyond saving. Mill looked at his painful state but could do nothing but shed tears silently. At this moment, Tae-san walked slowly into the cave, intending to end Ogye's suffering. Unexpectedly, Mill used her abilities to stop Tae-san. Tae-san easily blocked it first, then reminded Mill that they had already lost 4 companions, and Ogye had to pay the price. But just as Tae-san was about to finish off Ogye, Dongri stopped Tae-san with magic. Seeing Tae-san's rage, Dongri explained that this was the will of the god. Then he erased Mill's memories of Ogye, and after erasing Ogye's memories of Mill, he sealed Ogye in the cave. The memory ended. Seeing no soul stone nearby, Ogye spread his wings, flew forward, and knocked Salmon flying with a single punch. Only then did he notice Dongri lying on the ground. On the verge of death, Ogye couldn't help but sneer, then threw Dongri flying. Salmon then turned around and fought with Ogye, yet even though Salmon had absorbed the power of the soul stone, he was still no match for the powerful Ogye. Ogye first tortured Salmon for a while, then stabbed the spikes on his wings into Salmon's heart. He turned around and saw Dongri stumbling over to Mill, trying to wake her up again. Ogye, who had regained his memories, immediately stopped Dongri. Dongri then realized that Ogye had remembered those sealed years. Ogye demanded to know why Dongri had imprisoned him back then. Dongri could only reply with difficulty that it wasn't his will, but the will of the god. But such an explanation only made Ogye's resentment burn even more intensely. At the tense moment, Salmon, severely injured, stumbled to his feet, gathered his last bit of dark energy and launched it at Ogye. But Ogye didn't entangle with him. Instead, he picked up the unconscious Mill and flew away from here. Salmon looked at his departing figure and knew he was powerless to stop him, so he could only release his remaining power to reconvene the evil spirits that had been purified by Dongri, and then took them away from here. Dongri hurriedly dialed Tae-san's phone to report the news. Salmon had already mastered Hades' power, a power that could control human will. At this point, the only way was to open the gate of hell. Only the angels who had regained their divine power would have a chance to stop Salmon. Dongri also mentioned the matter of Ogye regaining his memories and taking Mill away. Finally, he kept apologizing to Tae-san, and said he might not be able to pay back the money he had borrowed from Tae-san. The next second, he could no longer hold the phone. When Tae-san and Won-sang arrived at the tunnel, Dongri's breath had already faded. The two brought Dongri's body back to the company. Everyone was deeply saddened. Dongri's passing became an indelible pain in their hearts. Ling Dang placed Dongri's hand on the staff, and his body turned into bits of green light that floated up to the sky. Tae-san fought back his grief and silently left the secret room. He went up to the second floor, sat down beside Jinchuan's bed, and was immediately lost in memories. Back then, after sealing Ogye, Dongri walked slowly over to Tae-san, and sighed that this world had returned to its rightful state. Tae-san said sadly that yet some companions had still passed away. Was this also the will of the god? Dongri couldn't answer such a heavy question, so he could only stay by Tae-san's side, and tell him not to waver in his conviction because of the companions' deaths. Time returned to the present. Everyone was sitting in their respective seats, sunk in sorrow. Just then, Tae-san walked into the secret room holding a sledgehammer, and everyone turned to look at him. Suddenly, they realized something and hurriedly followed him. Tae-san kept swinging the sledgehammer, and the seal on the gate of hell loosened accordingly, finally shattering with a loud crash. A blue beam of light soared into the sky. The power of each zodiac sign took physical form, and floated above the corresponding angels' heads. Their divine power returned to their bodies, and their exclusive weapons appeared in their hands. Tae-san turned around and looked at everyone with a determined gaze. Now the gate of hell has been opened. They must find Mill within one day, completely eliminate Salmon and Ogye, and then reseal the gate of hell. As he spoke, dark energy gushed out from the gate of hell, which was no longer suppressed by the zodiac divine power. Heaven and earth suddenly changed color. Emergency broadcasts from TV stations kept coming in. The sky quickly darkened under the influence of an unknown force. Fine and eerie dust fell from the sky. For a moment, panic spread among the people. At this moment, Salmon stood at the crossroads with his men. The people shouted abuse at him, telling Salmon to hurry up and get lost. But Salmon didn't care. When he saw that the crowd around had gathered enough, he started his plan. He separated the fused soul stone again, turning it into black mist that passed through human bodies. The next second, these humans actually all froze in place, then rushed frantically in one direction. On the other side, Ling Dang, with her healing power restored, finally finished treating Jin Shun. Tae-san finally felt a weight lifted off his chest. Looking at the scene outside the window, Tae-san composed his emotions, a determined look in his eyes, and signaled for everyone to set off. The scene suddenly flashed back to ancient times. In the ancient Great War, the angels fought fiercely on the battlefield, while Hades degenerated into an evil spirit. Tae-san did his utmost and finally defeated him, but out of consideration for their past friendship, Tae-san could never bring himself to kill him. Dongri reminded him that Hades was no longer their former companion, but a monster who had fallen into darkness. and in accordance with the god's will, he must be eliminated. After saying that, Dongri ignored Taesan's obstruction, and used his staff in an attempt to eliminate Haiti. However, at the last moment, Haiti used up his remaining strength to break free from the restraints, while seriously injuring Dongri. He also killed 4 angels. With a desperate strike, the scene was extremely tragic. Taesan was both angry and guilty. He threw a full-force punch and shattered Hades' soul. The 3 soul stones drifted away with the wind, and Salmon happened to witness all this, and it was from that moment on, he chose to linger on for 1,000 years, only to wait for the opportunity to overthrow the world today. Everyone stood beside the gate of hell and sealed it with the zodiac power. At the same time, Ogye took the unconscious Mill to a special place, a secret hideout where they first fell in love, but Ogye had exhausted all his strength and fainted when he landed. Memories came flooding back. Back then, only Gangji knew about the relationship between Mill and Ogye. However, Gangji didn't approve of this relationship, so she advised Mill to handle her feelings for Ogye properly. But during one patrol, Gangji found that Mill was still secretly meeting with Ogye. She helplessly reminded Mill that Ogye was a human. Mill immediately fell into deep thought, but she still didn't give up on her relationship with Ogye. The moment they looked at each other and smiled, sweetness quietly filled the air. But Ogye was deeply tormented by being unable to openly stay with his beloved angel. He often questioned his human identity, as if this difference had already doomed their tragic ending. Ogye also mentioned that he always felt something was spying on him in the dark. The feeling of being watched followed him everywhere. Mill could only comfort him softly and promised to protect Ogye no matter what happened, and also suggested confessing their relationship to everyone. Ogye fell silent for a long time and rejected this proposal, because even if they told the angels, they would never agree. In Taesan and the others' view, angels can only protect humans but can't love each other. After saying that, he held Mill's hand and said, no matter whether the other angels can understand them or not, his feelings for Mill would never change. At this moment, Salmon was planning how to open the gate of hell. After all his men had left, a wisp of black mist suddenly emerged from the void, then burrowed into Salmon's body. At the same time, Ogye was praying to the god, hoping that the god would choose him, to let him fight against evil spirits with the angels, just like Dongri, so that he could be with Mill in a justifiable way. Suddenly, Ogye felt a wave of dizziness. The next second, Salmon, covered in black mist, appeared beside Ogye. He stared at Ogye and could tell at a glance that this human was unusual. There was a special aura deep in his soul. Salmon had an idea and first mocked. The god will never give the power enough to upset the balance of the world to a tiny human. Then he changed the subject, saying he could help Ogye abandon his weak human body, in exchange for power stronger than that of angels, so that Ogye could be with Mill. When Ogye learned that the black mist in Salmon's body was the dark god, he originally wanted to refuse, but the powerful dark god didn't give him a chance to resist and knocked him unconscious. Then he dripped his own blood on Ogye's face. The intense pain made Ogye scream in agony. When he opened his eyes, only dangerous red light remained in his once clear eyes. However, the dark god didn't expect that the subordinate he had carefully transformed wouldn't obey his orders. He told Salmon to pass a message to Ogye, but Ogye subdued Salmon with just one move, and redefined their relationship in a cold tone. Salmon, who wasn't possessed by the dark god, was just a high priest. In the face of such a powerful Ogye, he could only choose to submit. At this moment, Gangji, the dog angel, smelled the aura of evil spirits. She hurried to the place where the aura came from, only to see Ogye's figure. Gangji questioned him why he had betrayed humans. Ogye replied coldly, because the god abandoned me. Now I only want to live for myself. Gangji mentioned Mill and advised Ogye that it was not too late to turn back. The next second, Ogye directly teleported to Gangji's front.
미르 때문에 보내준 것도 이번이 마지막이니까.
After saying that, Ogye left without looking back. After learning this news from Gangji, Mill tried every means to find Ogye, but he kept avoiding her all the time, because Ogye thought he now stood on the opposite side of the light, and his relationship with Mill would be even more impossible to work out. Time returns to the present. Ogye woke up. He struggled to get up, looked around, and after confirming there was no danger, transmitted the dragon soul back into Mill's body. Mill suddenly woke up. Not only did power return to her body, but also the sealed memories. She stared at Ogye and fell silent for a long time, then demanded to know why he had betrayed them back then.
그래 그 잘난 천사들에겐 배신이었겠지.
Upon hearing this, Mill was extremely disappointed, and turned around to leave. Ogye wanted to say something, but his injuries were really too severe. In the end, he could only watch Mill leave. After leaving the cave, Mill walked for a long time before finding a convenience store. She immediately called Taesan, but no one answered the phone the whole time. Just then, Salmon came over aggressively with his men. Mill used her abilities to deal with the enemies, but after Salmon fused with the soul stone, his power was far stronger than before. Mill was no match for him and was not unconscious. At the same time, Salmon's evil spirit army was constantly growing. going, they attacked the normal people around them crazily. The order on the street collapsed instantly. Police fired warning shots into the air, trying to make the attackers stop, but it had no effect. At this moment, Tae-san also saw the chaos on the street. He told Won-sang to stop the car immediately. Everyone hurried to take action. They used their respective abilities to subdue the innocent people controlled by evil spirits. Then Ling Dang used her healing power to make them regain consciousness. Suddenly, Gang Ji smelled a strong dark power. Tae-san hurried to act and found high-level evil spirits in an underground bar. The unaware gang leader was drinking. The next second, evil spirits burst in. Fortunately, there was a retired boxing champion nearby, who easily took down the evil spirits. But he didn't know the nature of evil spirits, and was knocked down by the evil spirit that stood up again. The gang leader, who was fleeing in a hurry with his girlfriend, was startled by Tae-san. Fortunately, Tae-san wasn't here to collect a debt this time. He easily dealt with the evil spirit, then led the other angels to continue searching for Mil, but they hadn't gone far when Ojie stopped them. It turned out that Ojie had seen Mil being captured by Salmon through his ability. He hurriedly told Tae-san about this, and speculated that Salmon was most likely on his way to the gate of hell. Now, if Salmon extracted the dragon soul from Mil, he would gain true power. Ojie begged Tae-san and the others to buy more time, saying he would settle this long-standing grudge once he regained his strength. At the same time, Salmon brought Mil to the Angel Capital building. The heavy vault door was as good as nothing under the impact of dark power. He quickly reached the basement. After laying Mil down on the platform, he forcibly extracted the dragon soul with dark energy, then pressed it into his chest. The blue dragon soul fused with the dark energy. Salmon felt that he was terrifyingly powerful now. Then he pressed his palm against a stone statue nearby, and no one knew what he was trying to do. Soon after, Tae-san and the others arrived at the Angel Capital building, only to see a group of evil spirits gathered here. Mosa picked up her knife and charged forward. A large knife suddenly swung over. Fortunately, Tae-san reacted quickly and saved Mosu in time. Only then did everyone clearly see that the one attacking Mosu was actually one of the 4 deceased angels. There was no light at all in their eyes. Gang Ji and the others froze in place instantly. Tae-san told everyone to snap out of it. The deceased angels were being controlled by Salmon. Tae-san made a quick decision and told Mosu and the others to hold back the deceased angels, while he went to the basement to stop Salmon himself. The angels couldn't bring themselves to attack their former comrades, who had fought side by side with them. But they also knew better, that if they didn't stop these puppets, it would only lead to a greater disaster. In the end, everyone gritted their teeth and charged forward. But after a round of fighting, they found that the puppets' power was much stronger than before. While they had been holding back, this couldn't go on. They quickly formulated a strategy and jumped back into the battle. Tae-san's side wasn't having an easy time either. He unleashed all his anger and punched a path open with his flaming fists. When Salmon saw that Tae-san was even more powerful than in ancient times, he felt a little cowardly. He tried to tempt Tae-san with power, claiming that as long as Tae-san cooperated with him, Salmon would make him even stronger than he was now. And when the two of them joined forces, the entire world would be within their grasp. However, Tae-san didn't hesitate and took down Salmon's subordinate with a single punch.
이거면 대답이 되겠나?
Salmon knew there was no use talking further, so he created 4 high-level evil spirits with black mist, and had them surround Tae-san. Tae-san could barely hold his own at first, but fell at a disadvantage after being ambushed by Salmon. Yet even so, Tae-san still did his utmost to eliminate all 4 evil spirits, but he knew Salmon was the real key. As long as Salmon couldn't be destroyed, Salmon would keep creating evil spirits endlessly. He charged straight at Salmon. Unexpectedly, the opponent's movements were both fast and aimed directly at his vital points. Tae-san was defeated after just 2 rounds. At the critical moment, Ojie stepped forward and charged straight at Salmon. The two fought evenly matched for a while, but Salmon was no longer the weak high priest who could be bullied by him back then. With the enhancement of the Dragon Soul and Soul Stone, he quickly knocked Ojie to the ground. Just as Salmon was about to strike a fatal blow to Mil, Tae-san, lying on the ground, used all his remaining strength to stand in front of Mil and take the hit. Salmon walked forward slowly, his face filled with mockery. He suddenly raised his knife, intending to kill Tae-san once and for all. At the crucial moment, Ojie flapped his black wings to block the fatal attack for Tae-san. But the next moment, Salmon pierced Ojie's body. He no longer wanted to indulge this traitor, so he tore off Ojie's wings. Just then, Mil woke up. She watched her lover die in front of her, powerless to do anything, and Ojie's sacrifice ignited the anger in Tae-san's heart. He clenched his fists again, and the flames on his fists burned extremely fiercely. Tae-san threw a punch suddenly. Even he didn't notice, the flames on his fists had turned into an unprecedented dark red. Tae-san's movements also became extremely agile. He vented all his resentment on Salmon. Salmon retreated steadily, and finally couldn't even stand steadily, and the flames on Tae-san's fists evolved into the ultimate blue. This strike left Salmon unable to fight. He let out shrill screams as he was scorched by light and fire, and finally turned into a wisp of ash, dissipating completely. At the same time, the Angel's battle had also reached its final stage. Ling Dang was locked in combat with the Rooster Angel. Susiok used his agility to hold back the Ox Angel, while Donnie provided support on the side. Mosu, relying on her powerful combat strength, knocked the Goat Angel unconscious. Gang Ji and Wonsang joined forces to trap the Rabbit Angel, then rushed to help Ling Dang and Susiok. The Rabbit Angel was relatively easy to handle, but the Ox Angel had immense strength. Fortunately, Ling Dang gave Wonsang an injection of the potion. With Donnie's support, Wonsang finally took down the Ox Angel. In this way, all the Puppet Angels were defeated. On the other side, after Salmon turned to ash, the dragon's soul returned to Mill's body. She hurried to kneel beside Ogye, recalling all the past events. She burst into tears and couldn't speak. Tae-san also felt deep guilt. He really shouldn't have treated Ogye like that back then. After the dust settled, the angels gathered together and gathered all the zodiac divine power into a physical form. Under the shroud of holy light, the gate of hell was sealed again. All the dark forces that tried to break free were locked back into the abyss. As the sealing was completed, a miraculous change suddenly occurred. Between heaven and earth, the long night that had lingered for so long was instantly dispelled by the light. Sunlight spread over the earth once again. Those who had been controlled by evil spirits also awakened from their confusion. And the most surprising thing was that the 4 angels who died in battle slowly opened their eyes. Everyone gathered around them. The big family that had been torn apart by war was finally reunited at this moment. Tae-san looked at the smiles on their faces. Tears of excitement glistened in his eyes. The world gradually returned to normal. TVs reported news of the disappearance of abnormal phenomena in various places. Citizens resumed their normal lives. Tae-san's act of anonymously donating money to orphanages was also reported. And the 4 newly awakened angels gradually adapted to modern life. With the help of their companions, before long, Tae-san bought each team member a new mobile phone, and asked them to have a dinner together at the newly opened restaurant run by Jin Shun and Wanfu. Applause and laughter filled the restaurant. However, in a dark corner of the city, a faint yet cold dark aura was surging quietly. The pendant in Tae-san's drawer suddenly flickered, and in the basement of the Angel Capitol building, Ogye's body suddenly glowed with red light. A new crisis is brewing, and the drama ends here. Although 12 has average special effects, the character Tae-san, played by Ma Dong-suk, has a distinctive image, and still showcases fierce, hard-hitting moves. This character has very complex emotions. At first, he firmly believed that the Angel's mission is to protect humans, but after experiencing countless betrayals, he abandoned this belief and even hated humans, refusing to speak to them for hundreds of years. This trauma turned the Angel's protection from active to passive. The rule of lending to gangsters is a form of self-protection to keep distance from humans. The drama's most brilliant setting is that divinity and humanity are always in a state of tension. When Tae-san broke his oath of not interfering in human affairs to protect Jin Shun, it proves that even after experiencing betrayals and sacrifices, the belief in protection and the desire for redemption remain an eternal faint light that transcends light and darkness. Today's commentary ends here. For those who enjoyed it, please subscribe to our channel. See you next time.